Here, we present a quick and comprehensive overview of the grievances that have been inflicted upon Islam by both its enemies and its followers alike, in order to highlight the importance of the Vatican Secretariat's document for both Muslims and Christians. We mention the following. Since the emergence of modern international law, it has been firmly established that Islam was considered outside the realm of international relations, and the Islamic peoples were denied the rights enshrined in this law. This was the stance of the pillars of European international law, who regarded Islamic peoples as barbaric groups unworthy of enjoying any material, moral, or other rights that should be respected. Attacking Islam was seen as a virtuous act, one that brought pride. No Islamic state enjoyed the rights of international law. Thus, unjustified hostilities and enmities arose. This law continued to be in effect until the first half of the 19th century. This is one manifestation of denial and enmity, and such was the perception of Islam until the dawn of the modern era. In fact, men of war, politics, and law, both before and after the Crusades, viewed Islam with deep-seated hatred and felt an overwhelming desire to distort and eradicate the Islamic message, a disgraceful stance from the people of the book towards the people of the book, who recognize and respect the heritage of all the prophets and seek the pleasure of God. Furthermore, global colonialism, in all its forms, played a significant role in distorting Islam and attempting to weaken and eradicate it in every Islamic country that fell under occupation. This was done in various ways, such as supporting traditional leaderships of various other religions, political and geographical division, leaving the Muslim masses prey to ignorance, poverty, and disease, fostering extremist nationalisms of all sizes, creating issues that dissipate energies and distract from religion, maintaining cultural, industrial, and civilizational backwardness, and rendering Muslim nations as consumer societies rather than productive ones, so that they would forever remain dependent on the West, never rising to any level of prominence. As a result of this strategy, nations fell into the traps of colonialism, were deceived by its civilizational advancement, and drowned in the pursuit of desires that consumed them. Backwardness and despicable regression became the price these nations paid for this blind conformity. From this ignorance that the West deliberately created by depriving the colonized peoples of education and technological advancement, an overall collapse ensued, along with the squandering of talents. These nations became incapable of mastering either war or peace, and the individual within them became unfit for both religion and worldly affairs. Anarchy, extreme mysticism, and ignorance spread, while immorality and corruption flourished. Their hearts became devoid of the sense of elevation and the desire for transcendence. These individuals became the disturbing circle, a curse upon religion. Through them, innovations and superstitions were introduced into the religion, of which it is completely innocent. The greatest tragedy, however, is that some of those who rule in the name of Islam today have not risen to its level. It is worth mentioning here that despite the remnants of past environments, the residues of the centuries, the ignorance of the masses, the desires of the elites, and the whims of the rulers that have clung to Islam, there are individuals of high intellect who raise the banner of Islam high against the materialistic onslaught and atheism that threatens the Islamic nation. They are firmly grounded in knowledge and safe from the afflictions of ignorance. We find in them an example, like those who elevated the status of the Islamic religion in its infancy, with their exceptional global competence. For over 1,000 years, Arab Islamic civilization flourished, and the contributions of Muslim Arab scholars were prominent, significantly advancing the sciences and culture in the West. These contributions were transferred to Europe through Spain and Sicily, laying the groundwork for its cultural and scientific future. Some of these sciences are still in use today. Western scholars during the Middle Ages relied on the works of Arabs, and the Arab Islamic civilization was the leading force for the modern Western world. However, the West did not embrace the divine purposes that were intertwined with the sciences among the Arabs, who contributed with their faith and gave much to the global body of knowledge. The best lesson Muslims learned from them was to transcend contradictions, realizing that there are higher purposes than those of the individual or society, which diminish and become secondary when compared to the divine purposes of humankind. Islamic civilization witnessed the birth of a new philosophy, one that expressed the law of the Creator, the universe, and mankind's relation to it, far removed from the vision of the Greek philosophers. Despite the setbacks and failures of Islam, this philosophy remains alive, much like the Quranic revelation that created a new reality in the lives of humans and their relationship with the universe and its Creator. It was a new vision based on monotheism, built upon piety that emerges from the consistency of action, which is the practical expression of belief. The essence of Islamic belief lies in monotheism, urging faith and knowledge that lead humans to certainty that everything in the universe and nature is a sign of the divine presence. Sciences, in all their branches, are inseparable from religion and humanity, aiming to elevate mankind towards perfection and endow existence with meaning. The fundamental teachings of Islam are that it is a reality, a part of a whole that fluctuates in size, with everything following higher purposes and subject to divine power, from ants and bees and cells to planets. Each has its specific goal, serving objectives beyond its own community, eventually merging into a pure unity that aligns with the universe in its entirety. Therefore, no one should oppress their fellow human or even the lowest of creatures, for the ultimate transcendence belongs to the Creator alone. Just as the Quran encouraged the pursuit of knowledge, so did the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, the seal of the prophets. He knew that knowledge would reveal the signs of God to people until the day of judgment. Among his sayings, peace be upon him, seek knowledge even in China, and whoever treads a path in search of knowledge, God will make easy for them a path to paradise. The ink of scholars will be weighed against the blood of martyrs on the day of judgment. Seeking knowledge is obligatory for every Muslim, male and female. A man remains knowledgeable as long as he seeks knowledge, but if he thinks he has learned everything, then he becomes ignorant. These teachings produced geniuses who absorbed this spirit and became deeply immersed in it. These scholars were passionate about science and knowledge. With their broad vision and firm belief, they left behind a rich legacy of knowledge and sciences that filled libraries across the Arab world. Among the greatest figures in the Arab world is Ibn Khaldun, a man of comprehensive thought, who was a scholar, artist, statesman, jurist, legal expert, and philosopher, all at once. In the 14th century, Ibn Khaldun authored a monumental work in history and sociology, addressing the rise and fall of civilizations. He preceded Machiavelli's The Prince by a century in studying the foundations of governance and the origins of ruling families. He documented the impact of climate, geography, and economic phenomena on the lives of nations. Ibn Khaldun is distinguished by his historical perspective, which remains influential today. Similarly, Ibn Sina, Avicenna, whose medical text, The Canon of Medicine, had a greater impact than any other medical work due to its clear classification of diseases and systematic study of their causes in classical methods. His medical encyclopedia was translated into Latin and remained an important reference for 8 centuries. Ibn Sina was not only a physician, but also a physicist, religious philosopher, scientist, and poet. An extraordinary figure with a broad genius. Al-Hasan ibn al-Haytham was a great mathematician, astronomer, and engineer, and he authored several books on optics, being the first to provide a precise anatomical description of the eye. Omar Khayyam was another notable mathematician, and the philosopher Ibn Arabi al-Razi, whose medical encyclopedia remained the sole scientific reference for 10 centuries. His works were translated into Latin for all the peoples of the West. These and dozens of other great Arab scholars were the pillars upon which Islamic civilization was built. As for the rightly guided caliphs who founded the Islamic State in the early period of Islam, they introduced the organization and structure of Arab Bedouin society, which had not previously encountered civilization in any significant way. These great men established social and political justice in the new society, laying down the first systems of policies for war, peace, and administration both within and outside of the Arabian Peninsula. They embarked on their conquests with remarkable determination, driving out the Romans from the Levant, the Jazira, and Egypt, and overthrowing the Persian Empire in its own land. They occupied a vast portion of these lands, exerting pressure on the Romans until the Byzantine Empire fell, just as they dismantled the Persian Empire. The Arab armies advanced beyond their own borders with the strength of faith that overcame obstacles, confronting mighty and well-organized forces. It was neither an easy nor a simple task to establish these powerful, large, and organized armies, which Abu Bakr and Umar, may God be pleased with them, directed against the ancient world. It was no easy feat to hold these armies in their positions after battles and victories for successive years. The Islamic conquests were not about destruction and ruin, but rather about security and construction in the lands they brought under their control. When we read the history of the Islamic conquests, we are amazed by them, and we are dazzled by the strength, speed, and resolve the Arabs demonstrated. We rest from seeking further analysis or investigation, attributing it to the faith that settled in the hearts of the Muslims, driving them to face challenges with trust in God and confidence in the fulfillment of His promise and the descent of His victory upon them in all situations. The world historian H.G. Wells, in his book The Outline of History, writes, "In just 125 years, Islam extended its banner from the river Indus to the Atlantic Ocean and Spain, from the borders of China to Upper Egypt. Islam succeeded because it encountered politically apathetic peoples everywhere, robbed, oppressed, terrified, uneducated, and disorganized. It found weak governments that had no connection with their people. Islam presented a more expansive, modern, and cleaner political idea, adopting an active approach to the world until that day, and it offered humanity a better system than any other." In a letter sent by the Patriarch Shorturius III to his colleague Patriarch Simon after the emergence of Islam, he wrote, "The Arabs, whom the Lord has granted power over the world and the leadership of the earth, have come among us. Yet we see them not causing harm to Christianity. They help and encourage us to maintain our beliefs. They honor monks and priests, and they provide financial support to churches and monasteries.